If there's anything wrong with the audio, because the mic isn't directly aligned, I've had a cable problem. Because one of the cables broke. I did one that actually has a bend in it rather than a straight cable for this thing since it is on a base. Anyways, I wanted to talk about some stupid ideas I had that are hilarious. I was working on poetry, making fun of various things, and I decided to rewrite an old poem that I did. Just different. But this one that I wrote, this doesn't even have to align with the stuff religiously. I just find it hilarious to contemplate. This one, I was gonna try to make it just funny, but then it actually got dark funny. It made me start contemplating what if, because I was trying to line the words up, and the only rhymes that I could find were fairly dark rhymes, in this case, at the very end sentence. So then there were 3 more sentences added. It's like an alternative Christianity. So hear me out. This might even be more effective at controlling humanity, which is surprising as hell to me. I think there's a fatal flaw with it. Like, I think it's too dark. So I think if this was the case, and they tried to convince people, they might actually just kill themselves. So maybe that's why they didn't do this. But here's the idea. Here's a poem. Young brother Paul walked up to the cross to observe the death of our Lord. But when he arrived, all he perceived was a mountain of smoke upon flame. God has spoken. God is mad. No one forgives the profane. So the idea is that this is Christian nihilism. It's like, what I wrote down is that instead of just being an average death cult like it is now, people are fucking crazy to believe it as it is, but this is even more ridiculous, like, but it has an even bigger punchline than original. In the original Christianity, you had a fucking chance, like, you could bend the knee, but this is different. This is the utilization of, you don't have a chance, so we're gonna use you like a resource type of Christianity. And it's like the full tilt of what Christianity already is. So, the original mythos is that a warring god comes down to save humanity by partaking in the fleshly form. But, in this mythology, God grows angry with man. And God throws a fucking nuke at the cross in the final... the final moments of his sacrifice. There is no salvation because God has spoken. So, the boys are throwing the idea. In light of the fallen state of man, the realization that they are all going to hell is the only thing to keep humans going. At least those who believe in this shit. Rather than absolute anarchy, this is in fact the driving power behind building AI and hyper-progressing the governmental rule of the church. The Christians become the first transhumanists. They build the very beast that is warned of in our universe, all because they feared God. Ironically, they are doing the same thing these days. That's another topic. This timeline just hyper-progresses that. It basically just ignores key points. It's kind of funny, like if we think about it in the actual Gnostic sense, it would go even more crazy because, yeah, obviously the wrong thing with the initial perception is that God was Jesus. Like, Jesus was just another man. Yeah, maybe had different genetic code. If we actually go from the religious standpoint, this makes some hilarious sense in this timeline. Because so the God in the Bible that Jesus spoke out about was Jehovah, but in this case, they never even got to keep all of the records. Because the god of war that Jesus warned about fucking nukes Jesus before he can take his last breath on the cross. That's the timeline. So the scattered records and the people that only knew about the warring god upon the outskirts of the blast essentially begin to worship the power of the warring god again. Jesus in this timeline practically meant nothing, save some records of him in other regions that he would travel to. So in theory, there would be like a Gnostic heretical sect that's still too persuaded by the mythos of one man, but they'd be closer to the truth than, oh, well, we're all gonna go to hell if we don't build some way to go deeper into the Matrix. That's what these Christians would be like. They see the... It's kind of fun. It's like the final nail in the cross was God himself killing the Christ by just a massive nuclear blast. So they would start building the system. And by the Middle Ages, don't even get all of the enlightened movements beyond that. Going by the normal accepted timeline. Like none of that even happens. They just progress so quickly that there are AI technocracies by, I don't know, 700 years later. It'd be ridiculous. Anyways, that's the idea. It's a thought experiment. Thank you for watching. Oh, here I go. Xanathos of Azon. Christian nihilism. So now God is understanding how meaningless and worthless everything be in a parallel world, that it may as well shut the skies down. Have you idolized him no longer? Nice. Yeah, that would be intense. I'd like to see a movie or some shit based on that. I bet it would get really bad reviews and seen as heretical, but I would love it. The modern Christians would just flip their shit. You can't write God as a sadist that just gave up and nuked nuked himself out of existence. That's how they would see it. It'd be so funny. That'll be it.